The Vikings conquered kingdoms, but one impossible morning would conquer them. When the village awoke, nothing looked different at first. Then, every family discovered the exact same mysterious object. No warrior touched the strange device, not even their fearless leader. Curiosity finally defeated fear, and one hand reached forward. The chieftain lifted the object as if it might awaken in his hands. He turned it slowly, searching for any sign of life. One tiny button caught his attention. He pressed it, and the village held its breath. Nothing happened until a faint vibration broke the silence.
Then, a single glowing symbol appeared from the darkness. No one understood its meaning, but everyone felt its power. Seconds later, the strange device finally came alive. It looked like writing from a civilization beyond imagination. The chieftain reached forward and unknowingly changed history forever. With one careful movement, the ancient world crossed into the modern age. The strange symbols vanished, revealing something even more impossible. No map, no runes, no scroll had ever looked like this. Then, a single touch changed everything again. A brilliant white beam burst into the frozen morning.
Fear slowly disappeared, replaced by something far more dangerous: curiosity. For the first time, they used light to search instead of fire. Even the bravest warriors reached out, hoping to understand its power. One careless touch awakened another impossible wonder. For the first time, the Vikings looked at themselves through the eyes of a machine. The image moved, exactly as the warrior moved. He stopped, but the mysterious world inside the glass stopped too. Slowly, he turned the device toward the village. It wasn't a painting. It wasn't magic. It was reality itself. For the first time, they realized the device could see the world.
The chieftain lowered the device, and the tiny world looked down with him. Then he raised it toward the heavens, and the sky followed. One young warrior stepped into its view, and the stranger inside copied every move. The village held its breath as every movement echoed inside the glass. The chieftain turned the device toward himself, completely unaware of what would happen next. One careless touch changed the impossible once again. Suddenly, the stranger inside the glass was looking back at him. He stepped back, but the man inside stepped back as well. Every movement, every breath, every blink was perfectly copied.
At last, he realized the stranger was himself. One by one, courage spread farther than fear ever had. The youngest hands moved first, before the oldest dared. A tiny thumb pressed the button, and the village waited once again. Then, another silent glow appeared in the frozen village. By sunset, the impossible no longer belonged to one man alone. Within days, the mysterious devices became part of everyday life. The brightest discovery was still the simplest: light without fire.
Soon, every household wanted the same impossible advantage. But not everyone welcomed the change. For the first time, the village was divided by the future. The village no longer feared the phones. They feared each other. Every discovery created another unanswered question. The old traditions remained, but the future had already arrived. Even the wisest elders could no longer ignore its usefulness. The question was no longer where the phones came from.
One quiet morning, curiosity returned to the camera. He wondered, could this tiny window remember what it had seen? With one touch, a single moment escaped time itself. The ship sailed away, but the image refused to leave. For the first time, they realized memories could be held in human hands. Soon, every family wanted to preserve their own memories. Some moments were too precious to trust to memory alone. For the first time, generations could see the same moment forever. The devices became treasures, guarded more carefully than gold. Without realizing it, they had begun protecting the future itself. A few days later, another mystery quietly revealed itself. No matter how he turned, the strange needle always returned. The warriors tested it again and again. The answer never changed, even when the man did. For the first time, direction no longer belonged to the stars alone. Spring arrived, and the sea called the Vikings once again. The old navigator trusted the sky. The chieftain trusted both. For hours, both paths pointed in the same direction. Then, the sea hid every familiar sign. For the first time, the sky offered no answers. Without a word, the chieftain quietly changed the fleet's course. The ships obeyed, though no one knew why. Hours passed, and still they trusted the unseen path. Then, the sea finally revealed the truth. The old navigator smiled, because the impossible had just become undeniable. The voyage changed more than their destination. It changed how they remembered the sea. Every cliff, every harbor, every river became a memory they could keep. Soon, the sea was no longer guided by memory alone. The greatest explorers in Europe had found a new way to learn. The ocean had not become smaller, but its secrets were becoming easier to remember. Weeks became months, and the miracle quietly became routine. Then, one tiny symbol changed everything again. The light was weaker, and no one knew why. The miracle had never promised to last forever. For the first time, they feared losing the future they had found. Then, the first screen went dark forever. Soon, another light disappeared from the village. The village had learned, but it had also begun to lose. Every remaining charge became more valuable than gold.
The greatest treasure was no longer the phone, but what it had taught them. Only one phone still carried a fading heartbeat of light. Before saying goodbye, he visited one final memory. Then, the light quietly vanished forever. Years passed, but the lessons never faded. The smartphones were lost, but they had already changed history forever.